Might be time for some movie reviews. Not really familiar with the movies that are out these days, or even the TV shows. However, I did notice that there is a cultural trend where there was some discussion a few months ago, or maybe even a couple of years ago, about the new Barbie movie and whether or not the new Barbie movie qualifies as feminist. Without being rude or anything like that, there is nothing about the Barbie and Ken doll franchise from Mattel, so the actual dollies, that will qualify as feminist. And we're not entirely sure that it's a genuinely feminist argument for the man to be a dickless plastic wonder that is under the matriarchal control of a slightly vain character from an alternate reality. Anyway, so that doesn't actually qualify as the egalitarian ethos behind feminism, which has as one of its tenets or thesis or propositions the idea that the patrician archy, in other words, the rule by patrician, emphasised the rule of men of a particular social class over other social classes and genders, and as a consequence, the kind of ideas that have a sort of Roman flavour to them, which is a little bit sort of like militaristic, basically, led to this idea that led to this idea of the subordination of women through the subordination of men in those particular capacities as gender roles. So in some capacities, the actual central tenets of feminism are an anti-Roman stance. Rather than an anti-male stance, it's more of an acknowledgement that male gender roles and female gender roles don't necessarily reflect what men and women are truly all about, and have their origins basically in Rome. And they said that in a very indirect manner. It's coded in the word patrician archy. Anyway, we're not really sure how the corporate symbolism associated with Barbie dolls was truly a feminist proposition, particularly when it involved the dickless Wonder Ken running around in alternate realities with a doll that wanted to be a real person. It's a bit confusing. It seems to be associated somehow with as social commentary with the objectification principle that is apparent in the robotics industry. And particularly it involves the objectification of women, so maybe it offers some kind of parody to that and says that just because the tech bros of the robotics industry have a history of seeing women as objects, it doesn't mean they actually are. Even Barbie is a person with their own values, ambitions, goals, and interests, and they would like to be seen as such. Perhaps that's the message behind it. Perhaps it's less a anti-patrician argument than it is a anti-robotics argument. So the removal of the robotics industry from how women are viewed is probably a good idea. Women are not your dolls. Women are not your toys. Women are not your sex objects. So your robot dolly principle of treating any woman as that kind of robotic slave, or any robot as though it was a real woman, such in the case of, was it Saudi Arabia or Iran, giving the robot Sophia citizenship before allowing women the right to drive or vote, sounds like it's a bit fucking much, and a bit extreme version of that patricianarchy gone wrong in the objectification principle. So we reject the proposition that the robot Sophia ever had citizenship or the right to vote, and we acknowledge that only real women did and do, and there is a massive distinction between the two. With that being said, the movie Barbie could possibly have that particular consequence in social debate, then perhaps it's on some good. And wow, Barbie dolls were actually useful for something once. Okay, so let's talk about that and how that what was the original discussion going to be? Discussion of movies and how they relate to sort of social commentary. Okay, so On the generic subject of the idea of tribute movies or sequels, or getting an old idea and then turning into a new version of it, updating it for the 21st century and whatnot, we anticipate the movie Aladdin. This would be an interesting one, to see, because the movie in the movie Aladdin. If this is just a proposition for Hollywood, if any of its studios are not burnt out at the moment, they might like to talk to Pixar about making a cartoon movie whereby Aladdin is in the same pseudo feminist rhetoric, is still cast as the thief character that he was before. However, instead of coming from the poor class of the Arabian society in which the story is set, he's actually friends with the local finance industry, and they operate some kind of cartel to attempt to usurp the treasury of the kingdom that Aladdin lives in. And Aladdin therefore becomes a thief by instead of abducting the princess and taking on a magic carpet ride, he actually is part of a cartel that robs the treasury. And Princess Jasmine in that story is an adventurous character, so she retains her basic personality from the original Aladdin movie, and she looks around and she starts to spy on, see what's going on in the treasury, in the vault, in the castle, to try and figure out who these marauders are and why they're stealing from the treasury and where they came from. And she reports back to the king what happens, and she plays little pranks on them, and she's friends with, of course, the magic genie from the lamp, who never grants any powers or wishes to Aladdin all, but grants them all to her. And what she does is absolutely overthrows the Aladdin cartel, saves the kingdom, and is hailed as a hero and given a badge of honor that is roughly equivalent of what Princess Leia got during the Rebel Alliance of Star Wars. Now, that would be a good version of Aladdin. Have a nice day.